Hi friends, you're here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we are talking about the lovely juniper berry in Witchcraft and Herbalism. So, we have so much to talk about, and I'm really hoping we can squeeze it into 30 minutes, because otherwise there would be a part 2. So, I keep my needle in my juniper berries, because I like to string them into strings and use them either as jewelry, for all of the reasons we'll read in this book, but they're great for protection and cleansing. And they're great for jewelry. They're what make gin. They're that main taste in gin. So yes, let's just dive right in to juniper berries and start talking, because there's so much to talk about and be said. Okay, so nothing at all came up in Wicca in the Kitchen, which I was surprised because juniper berries are fantastic when you grind them up and put them into a rub if you eat meat. They're really excellent on red meats like venison and beef. But yes, that's what I know about it. But I did look under the alcohol section and find other alcohol beverages and what Scott Cunning has to say about them in here and their magical properties. Well, gin, a common contemporary offering to the goddess Pele, P-E-L-E, the goddess of volcanoes who lives in Hale Mau Mau on the Big Island of Hawaii. This is a modern version of the items once thrown into the crater: flowers, fruit, and sometimes animals, but no living human beings. Pele took human lives by sending lava, smoke, and ash to quench them. And that appears on page 193 and 194 of Scott Cunningham's Wicca in the Kitchen. Yes, and then now we are going to talk about it in... I want to give you a really good basic definition. So we're going to talk about it in Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And so I will just read from its place. Scott gives a picture of what the juniper tree looks like. I think it's quite beautiful. And again, juniper is what I'm going to be. It's my favorite of the bowls my uncle makes of all the different kinds of wood that he finds, and the burl. Burl is like a tree cancer, and when you make a bowl out of it, it looks amazing. But the smell of like gin and juniper berries still lays in the wood. It's quite something. I think in one portion in Magical Household we talk about juniper wood. This is all talking about juniper berries, okay? Alright, so juniper, folk names: Enebro, Geminier, Walkholder, Geneva, Ginberry, Ginepro, Gin plant. The gender is masculine, which is interesting because I think when I read a poll, many more, it was like 80% of men drink gin and 20% of women did. But that was it. 80% of women wouldn't drink gin. So it's a masculine, by nature, I guess. Planet the sun. However, I love gin, by the way. Nice Bombay sapphire. Element fire. Powers protection, anti-theft, love, exorcism, and health. So again, these are great for protection, and when you burn it in your incenses, it's great for protection incense, which we'll get into. Magical uses. Used throughout Europe as a protective herb, juniper also guards against theft. It was probably one of the earliest incenses used by Mediterranean witches. Juniper hung at the door protects evil forces and persons, and it is burned in exorcism rites. A sprig of the plant protects its wearer against accidents and attacks by wild animals. It also guards against ghosts and sickness. Juniper is... Oh, and I know that when you burn it as an incense, it is 20 times stronger than sage, and it is excellent if you're trying to get any kind of spirits or ghosts to leave the area, okay? That's just my snippet in there. Juniper is added to love mixtures, and the berries are carried in incense are carried to increase male potency. When carried or burned, juniper helps the psychic powers and breaks hexes and curses and drives away snakes. Again, weren't we? Oh my gosh, we talked about like 3 or 4 videos in a row now that things have been driving away snakes. There's a lot on the list. Excellent. So that's what I've grasped from Cunningham's magical herb. And now I'll like to talk about, we will go into Cunningham's magical herbalism. Look, you guys, it pops up a jillion times. So I'm going to try and get through this the best I can. First, on page, well, in the back, in the index, on page 259, we find juniper. And we see that it's on loads of pages. First page it says it's on is 26. It's not on. It's on page 25. And it says, so we already talked about the preparation for magic in both the cedar video and the oak video. And I read through this whole thing. Basically, in the preparation for magic, it's things you can do around your house to prepare your home for magics. And one of those things is the floor of the magical room should be freshly swept and mopped or vacuumed. If there's a fireplace near or in the room itself, light a fire. Preferably, you know, the wood that you're burning would be oak, pine, holly, hazel, juniper, cedar, poplar, apple, or ash woods. So there's the first one. And yes, we were talking about juniper wood there, weren't we? It would smell so amazing to be burned. The next page we're on to is page 49. And I don't think I held this up. I apologize. We are in Cunningham's Mystical Herbalism. So on to page 49, it is at the beginning of chapter 5, which is talking about protection. And I'm just going to read it. All of the flowers that herbs possess, perhaps the most widely used, are those that are protective. These are the herbs that disperse evil and set up a powerful protective barrier where they should be burned, hung up, or carried. Since these herbs are possessed of good or positive vibrations, they automatically work to repel negative or evil vibrations. Thus, when these negative vibes come up against a psychic energy barrier of positive vibrations, the negativity is bounced back. Protection is conferred. All operations of protection are best done in the waxing moon. Red and white are colors most commonly used for sachets, altar decorations, flowers, etc. Place a white cloth on the altar. On it, arrange white, brand new candles in white candle holders and a vase of protective flowers, such as snapdragons or rue blossoms, and some greens like trefoil, juniper, or rosemary. So they're saying to put some juniper greens into your protection altar. That's fantastic. Thank you, Scotty. Okay, and now we're on to page 51, where it says that, you know, juniper is in the big list of protective herbs. Okay, now we're on to page 55, where we see that in a purification incense, Scotty suggests to put bay, avens, mugwort, yarrow, rosemary, St. John's wort, angelica, basil, juniper berries, ding ding ding, equal parts of each. Powder and mix in the mortar and pestle. Okay, so now we're on to page 61, where we're still in the chapter of like divination, and it's witch's sight incense. This is an all-purpose formula to be burned while reading tarot cards, using crystals, meditation, etc. It is composed of gum, mastic, patchouli, cinnamon, juniper, and sandalwood. All right. So now we're on to page 91, where juniper falls under the element of fire. And now we're on to page 124 through 125, where we're talking about incenses, and it says at Yule, or this is a Yule incense, burned during all winter rites, and also to purify the home from November 1st to March 21st. So this is an incense that you could be burning now. And it is composed of pine, juniper, and cedar. It would go into detail on how to make that. If you want the details, just leave a comment below and I'll give them to you. And on the next page over here, it says that juniper is also in the KYPHI, the Kefi incense, an ancient Egyptian blend often used in general magical working and especially burned at night. Plutarch said its aromatic substances lull to sleep, allay anxieties, and brighten the dreams. It is made of things that most delight in the night and exhibit its virtues by night. It is also useful banishing incense. On the night of the new moon, get about half a handful of raisins and put them into an earthenware bowl, like some crockery you made or pottery, or an earthenware bowl. Cover with white wine and let steep, loosely covered in a place where they can remain undisturbed for 5 days. 3 nights after setting the raisins to steep, take equal parts of the following herbs: juniper, sweet sedgeroot, acacia, henna. Masquerade in a white bowl and steep all night and the next day until the night falls down. On this night, and it goes on. But juniper is one that is in this ancient Egyptian incense. If you want more info on that, let me know. So now we're on to page 171, where it just goes into a breakdown and does a little bit on juniper. It's going to be similar to what we find in here, but there'll be a little bit less, but a little bit more. Scott knew that people are going to be collecting his books, so he laid it out so that you don't feel like, I just read the same exact thing there. You'll have little bits of the same, but it won't be the same exact thing. Okay, so juniper, the gender is hot, the planet's the sun, the element is fire, the basic powers are protection and love. The specific uses: a sprig of juniper will protect the wearer from accidents. One of the earliest incenses used by witches was made from a combination of the leaves and the dried crushed berries. And that's what these are. These are the berries I've put on a string here. Dried crushed berries. String the matured berries for an attractive charm designed to attract lovers. Sometimes used in an anti-theft sachet, it guards against thieves. Grow juniper at your doorstep for protection. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so now we're on to page 190. And in the section where it's talking about pine, it says under the specific uses of pine, burn the crushed and dried needles in the winter to purify the home. This is good when mixed with equal parts of juniper and cedar. The cones are carried as fertility charms. Yes, so that was that. Juniper, cedar, equal parts with pine, and it is an excellent incense to purify the home. So now we're on to page 194. If you guys have this book and you found something on 194, please let me know. I wasn't able to find a darn thing. So that's that. This is an excellent book with lots of little tidbits where you can make things really your own, really true. I like it. So now we are going to talk out of... Oh, so much to talk about when we're 13 minutes. I know it feels like I'm speed talking. There's not even music because I have to focus. It's really because I want to get through this whole thing in 30 minutes. And I feel like this is harder than Chop Challenge at the moment. Okay, so now we're into Scott Cunningham and David Harrington. They co-wrote this book together, The Magical Household. Spells and Rituals for the Home. Okay, let me grab something. Okay, so here it says on page... so the pages that are in this book are page 13, 16, 74, 84, 108, 134, 137, and then Juniper Wood is on page 12. All of the former were juniper berries. Juniper berries in Witchcraft and Herbalism. Who's rocking the Scrabble tiles? This witch. Alright, so Juniper. Oh, yes. We've talked about the hearth in this book before. If you didn't watch that video on the hearth and the fireplace, it's absolutely amazing. But if you're going to do fire gazing as a form of scrying, I super suggest it. It's something that we all used to do as kids, I think. Or at some point in our life, like as campers, as kids, whatever. We're just like enticed by the fire, aren't we? So it is... Preserve the custom of fire gazing in a blaze made of sandalwood, juniper, and cedar logs. So if you want to do some amazing divining through fire, you can do it that way. Next, we are on to page 16, which is in a chapter that's new called Thresholds of Power. And we find juniper berries when we're talking about specific herbs are grown on the porch to further protect the home. We did just hear that in Magical Herbalism. Ferns, lilies, marigolds, and juniper are grown there in pots. Great. So next we're on to page 74, where it says, we're in a chapter called Fur, Feathers, and Fins, which... You know, I love those sorts of things, and especially working with them in magic and herbalism. But the juniper, it's talking about... It says, finally take a few hairs, feathers, or some other part of the animal, or failing this, draw an exact likeness of the creature as your talent allows. Place this with protective herbs such as juniper, basil, bay, rosemary, dill, vervain, St. John's wort, etc. Okay, so they're doing a spell for a missing pet. And they're saying that to get to do some protective things on missing pets, juniper would fall there. That's excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Scotty, because he knows that pets are magical. Okay, so also now we are on to this page 84, and if you have this book, Magical Household, and you can find juniper on there, please let me know. I wasn't able to find it. Alright, so now we're on to page 108, and in an anti-theft sachet, it says that we can use caraway, rosemary, juniper, and elder, or mistletoe. Place these ingredients in a piece of white cloth, tie it up with white yarn, and hang it prominently in your home, visualizing the sachet bearing the entrance of thieves. Really, that visualization is going to be a huge part of your magic there. And now we're lastly under page 130, almost lastly, 134, and it says that juniper, okay, if you don't have a fireplace, you can make a Yule candle. I think we're talking about holidays, times of, the magical year. If you don't have a fireplace, you can make a Yule candle. Buy the largest, fattest red candle you can find, or better yet, make one yourself. With an ice pick, carve a figure of a blazing sun on the side of the candle. I think that ice pick's important because it's used for ice versus the sun. But if you didn't have that, then use a toothpick that you kept in your ice cube tray. Or maybe frozen in a piece of ice and then you let it thaw out, probably from the ice cube tray that was lying on some ice. Toothpick. Okay, with an ice pick, carve a figure of a blazing sun on the side of the candle, and then place it in a holder on the heat-proof tray. Ring its base with either holly, pine, mistletoe, cedar, rosemary, bay, juniper, and other evergreen plants. Burn the candle on Yule evening. If you want to burn it all night, place in a cauldron in a large bowl, and ring the cauldron itself with the greens. That's great stuff. And then on page 137, juniper incense. We're still in the magical year, and it's talking about juniper incense. Juniper incense or dried crumbled juniper burned on a charcoal block ritually cleanses the home, and it's highly traditional. Grass and water can also be brought into the home to ensure plenty of food and drink. Interesting. Okay, so that's what we got out of Magical Household, Scott Cunningham and David Harrington collaboration. And now we will go to Scott Cunningham's Earth Power. This isn't a book that I talk a lot about because it doesn't have an index. So you have to like go through and look for the word. I do the best I can for you guys, but I was at least able to find something in the appendix where it says that Juniper is excellent for divination. That's all I got. Please revise this book and make it better with like a content so we can understand, because I've read it and I've read through this book, but I still am not going to remember where exactly everything is. So to me that's a little bit hard, but they'll do a revision, I'm sure. Those things always do. Lastly, out of Cunningham's books, we are on to Incense, Oils, and Brews, and it appears so many places. I actually feel like we should leave that for last. Let's do this one next. This is not Scott Cunningham's book. This is called Sexual Practices of the Druids, a handbook for magic and ritual. And I found it one place because it was in the index. And it's talking about personal preparation for magics, cleansing the body, and how you can do that. So cleaning yourself for magical ritual. Cleaning your body for magical ritual. It says a quick, effective, rejuvenating way is by, taking a shower or bath or whatever. If, on the other hand, you feel your internal energy is overactive and you are overly stressed, you will need to relax in a stress-relieving herbal bath. The best herbs for this purpose are, for a stress-relieving herbal bath, here's the herbs: bay, clove, lavender, juniper, and rosemary. And cleansing yourself of stress is one of the best cleansing methods you can use. Because let's just say you cleanse your energies and stuff. Maybe you're not pulling the specific energy of stress. That one is so toxic. And it's not just stress of the mind. Remember, we're all going to die of some form of stress, whether it was stress on the heart and you died of a heart failure, or stress on the, if you're not dying in your sleep, even if you pass in your sleep, they're going to be able to find it was stress to something, Okay, lastly, we're going to talk out of, I want to hold up this book and say, I wasn't able to find juniper berries in it, which is crazy because I know they have so many medicinal purposes. So, David Hoffman, in the book I've had since I was 17, might be my first or second disappointment with it, but it's just too bad, So I know I've been speed talking, my apologies, but we're going to be able to get it in under 30 minutes, which makes Jen so happy. So here we are, and we're going out of Scott Cunningham's. This is one of my favorite books, and one of the topics in it I cannot flipping wait to get into is ointments. I feel like I should flick through ointments just to see if juniper appears in them at all. But the ointments are a way old school thing that I never see people talking about, and Scott Cunningham gives ointments that he says, do not use, never make, he says you can make it, but never put it on your skin. Use only for anointing candles, but witches used to anoint their skin with it. There's stuff in here that's and he says, don't do it. Just hope you listen. Oh, yeah, so ointments, here we go. Here's all the ointments, exorcism ointment, flying ointment, non-toxic, flying ointment, toxic. Don't even consider using this. Healing ointment, hexbreaker ointment, moon goddess ointment. There's more. There's just loads. Visions ointment, caution, because it's got, things that are illegal in it. Okay, so let me get to the blue tags, which is what we're reading out of, where it appeared in the incense form in this book. And so a really simple incense is frankincense, juniper, and cedar and pine. Next, I found it saying that the materials for incense of herbals are usually just 14 most frequently used ones, and these are you can combine these in any way and make cones or sticks or papers or blocks, any of it. And if you don't know what all of those things mean in incense, neither did I until a couple months ago when I got this book, and I'm just panicking at the disco about it. I swear. That's one of my daughter's favorites. Okay, so the 14 are frankincense, myrrh, benzoin, copal, rose petals, bay, cinnamon, pine needles or resin or pitch, juniper, sandalwood, cedar, thyme, basil, and rosemary. Alright, so that's amazing to know. It popped up in the Aries incense. If you're an Aries, 2 parts frankincense, 1 part juniper, 3 drops cedarwood oil. Burn as a personal altar or household incense to increase your own powers, Aries. So cool. Oops, baby. Next, on page 60, I found it under a Babylonian ritual incense. 3 parts cedar, 2 parts juniper, 1 part cypress, and 1 part tamarisk. Burned during Babylonian and Sumerian magical rituals. We love Sumerian things around here. Or when attuning with such deities as Inanna, Marduk, Enlil, Tiamat, and others. Okay, next we found it on page 66 in an Egyptian incense and another one. The Egyptian incense is 4 parts frankincense, 3 parts gum arabic, 2 parts myrrh, 1 part cedar, 1 part juniper, 1 part calamus, and 1 part cinnamon. Burned during Egyptian rituals and to honor any of the Egyptian deities, such as 3 that I love: Ra, Bastet, and Isis. Next, 8-fold hearth incense. 2 parts dragon's blood, 2 parts myrrh, 1 part juniper, half a part sassafras, half a part orange flowers, half a part rose petals. Burned for a safe, warm, loving home, and also give as a gift to others. Okay. Did I read that? Oh, I didn't. Juniper, when used in incense, the 4 qualities are exorcism, protection, healing, and love. And that happened on page 57. Okay. Next, we've got Fire of Azrael. And that is 1 part sandalwood, 1 part cedar, 1 part juniper. While burning, burn while scrying, or throw into the coals of a fire once the flames have been quenched into a gaze, and to see them in images form within them. The latter rite is best performed on a beach at night. Fire of Azrael incense is also used in a general, as a general psychic-inducing incense. You guys, that Fire of Azrael incense is amazing. I have to note to do that. Because I wanted fire gaze. My shoddy handwriting. Okay, so next we are on to... I found it in an incense spelled Kyphi, and it's a huge list. I'm not going to say all the parts, but here's what's in it: frankincense, benzoin, gum mastic, myrrh, cedar, gangle or ginger, calamus, cardamom, cinnamon, cassia, juniper berries, orris, cypress, lotus bouquet, wine, honey, and raisins. Next, it was in another incense like that called Kyphi number 2. It's simplified. And that one's got frankincense, benzoin, myrrh, juniper berries, gangle, cinnamon, cedar, lotus bouquet, wine, honey, and raisins. Now it's in a Leo incense. For those of you who are astrological signs, is the lion, the Leo. Uses it's 2 parts gum mastic, 1 part sandalwood, 1 part juniper berries. Used as a personal altar or household incense to increase your powers. Oh, we're finishing right at 30 minutes. This is beautiful. A lock incense. 3 parts frankincense, 2 part juniper berries, 1 part vetiver, and half a part cumin. To guard your home from thieves during the day, smolder this mixture in a censer before the front door. Then move it to each opening of the house, doors, windows, cellars, etc., skylights. through which thieves may enter. Visualize this smoke forming in an invisible but impenetrable barrier. So it's invisible, but no one can penetrate it. Visualize, you guys. The time you spend doing that is the most magic you can put into this. Move in a clockwise circle throughout your home, replenishing the incense as necessary. Repeat monthly at the time of the full moon. That's coming, y'all, if you want to do that. If possible, or use as needed. Like, if it's needed, just use it as needed, just with more visualization, more intention. This incense is designed to lock your home against unwanted intruders, but don't forget to actually bolt your doors as well. Very important. I don't know if I'll get to all of them. It's in a moon incense, which has juniper berries, orris, calamus. If you want more information on the moon incense, let me know. That's on page 81. On page 82, it's in a moon fire incense, a 9-wood incense, and then let me know in comments if you need those recipes or want a video. And it's in a sight incense on page 90. So lastly, on page 100, it's in a Yule incense, which has, since Yule's coming, I will say this and close the video. 2 parts frankincense, 2 parts pine needles or resin, 1 part cedar, and 1 part juniper berries. Mix and smolder at Wiccan rites on Yule or around December 21st, or during the winter months to cleanse the home and to attune with the forces of nature amid the cold days and nights. You guys, thanks for joining me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch. I love you so much. I'll see you soon.